First and foremost, I want to say happy Pride. So as a filmmaker who is also queer, I thought I would talk about queer representation that I've appreciated over the years. And I want to make it very clear, there will be spoilers. I've included every show and film that I'm going to talk about in the description, so you can double check that if you haven't watched these, you can go watch them and then come back and watch this video. So the first piece of media that I'm going to talk about is the film Love, Simon. And I actually watched this in the theater on my 24th birthday, and even as someone who came out at 19, this movie really pulled the heartstrings for me. What I appreciate about this movie is that they really captured kind of the awkwardness of figuring out your sexuality. And another thing I appreciate about this movie was Simon's parents and how they reacted to their son coming out. On the other hand of that, I think Love, Simon also depicted how not to be an ally, aka Simon's asshole friends. Yeah, they were assholes in him coming out, and it just really pissed me off at how they just cared about themselves and didn't take time to understand what Simon is going through. But that may just be me. But yeah, the next piece of media I want to talk about is another film, A Portrait of a Lady on Fire. As a loving woman, I obviously love this movie. And all I want to say about this is, though it may be in French and maybe set in the 18th century, I have never felt so seen as a loving woman. I think what's beautiful about this movie is that even if it was like a silent film, you would understand that these two women were falling in love. It's just the glance. Like, it's all about the glances. And the film is obviously heartbreaking, but it's very good and beautiful, regardless. And the third more mainstream piece of media that I want to talk about that I've appreciated in the past few years is One Day at a Time with the characters Elena and Sid. So Elena is the daughter of the family that the show focuses on, if you're unfamiliar, and she comes out as gay at 15. And I think the show in general is just such a beautifully female-driven show. Even with it being a sitcom, it addresses a lot of just very timely and relevant topics. But in terms of, sexuality and coming out, I think the show very much summed up the adjustment period that people go through when their loved one comes out to them. The mom specifically in the show, when Elena comes out to her, she feels weird about it. And I'm very familiar with that because I know my own mother went through a similar adjustment period, is what I would like to call it. I actually even made a film about my own experience with that and coming out to my mom, which you can watch on my channel, and I'll link it here. But yeah, I think it was beautiful and very, very realistic. I also appreciate that they directly write about sex. With Elena and Sid, there is an episode dedicated to the first time that they have sex, and I think that's important. I think there still is a lot of growth and improvement we need to do in terms of education about sexual health for queer people, especially for teens, because if you're going to teach heterosexual sexual health in high schools, then there should be the same curriculum for those folk who are not heterosexual. So I appreciate that a lot. So now that I've talked about more mainstream queer representation in media, I want to briefly talk about 3 more obscure forms of representation that I've really enjoyed in the past few years. So the first one is Korra and Asami in Legend of Korra. And of course, if you watch the series, you know what I'm talking about. But I love it. I love that it is an unspoken thing. But of course, us queer folk know that the minute Korra was like, I only wrote to Asami for 3 years, and I never wrote Mako and Bolin, you know that friendship, that they were more than just really great friends. And at the end, I'm just gonna say it, when they walked into the portal to go to the spirit world hand in hand, I screamed. I like legitimately was screaming, and my girlfriend had to cover my mouth. The second more obscure media representation that I've really enjoyed, especially lately, is actually a YouTube channel, Jolie. And I want to make it clear because he makes it very clear that his channel is not LGBT or a couple channel, but he does talk about his life with his partner while they're living in Vancouver, Canada. It is in its purest form showing two people of the same sex living and thriving and supporting each other in life. And that's kind of more of the representation I want and appreciate nowadays as someone who, you know, is getting to a point in my life where building a life with someone, building a life with a partner is more and more a priority for me. And last but certainly not least, the obscure queer representation in media that I want to talk about is Raya and Nora. And I know you're probably looking at me and I'm really confused because you're like, Marissa, that's Disney. That is the furthest thing from obscure. And I get it. I just know there's some people that are probably gonna be like, what? That's not queer, whatever. But we know. All I'm gonna say about Raya and Nora's relationship is, well, if Disney were to explore their relationship any further, I am so on board. Alright, well, that is at least a handful of queer representation that I've appreciated over the years. Well, let me know in the comments which films or shows or even YouTube channels that you've enjoyed when it comes to queer representation. Once again, happy Pride. Hopefully, again, we all get to celebrate a little bit more comfortably, a little bit more in person this year. Just be sure to hydrate, be safe in all regards, and yes, I'm happy you're here, and I'm happy that you're queer. Alright, once again, YouTube, I'm Marissa Roxas. I'm a queer Filipinx filmmaker from San Diego, California. Until next time, take care. Oh, my thing went out. Damn it. I had the pride flag up. Like, okay. Bye.